Jamie Higginbotham. We're going to try something new for this particular episode, and it may it may be a miserable failure. It may be awesome. I have no idea. But if you look at the description in YouTube, there should be a link, and in that link, if you click on it, if you have something that you want to say, if you want to be a part of the show, audio and video, you can click on that link. And we can bring you into the show live and give your opinion. And speaking of opinions, oh my goodness, Boeing. What Boeing? I feel like every other show we're talking. I know everyone's like, oh god. I feel like every other show we're talking about Boeing at this point, and yeah, the latest news isn't super great, right? Like, it sounds like they used tape that could burn the whole vehicle. I'm exaggerating, but who has the best version of this? Ryan, Jared, Dolly, like who has the most information here?
From my understanding, it's not good. I think that's.
Thanks, Ryan. Thanks for the detailed
Very
analysis
informative.
of it's not good. Yeah.
Yes. Basically, so July 21st was going to be the day. It was finally going to happen. Starliner was going to carry crew, and then NASA and Boeing did their little investigation that they do before for safety reasons, to make sure that everything checks out and everything's okay. So they do the little investigation after years and years of delays, and they found more problems. So now they have to delay it again with a launch date that's no longer July 21st, and that is they're not able to, I forgot what the exact wording was, but basically NASA and Boeing are unable to comfortably predict when the launch will actually be. They're confident for this year, but they're not confident when it exactly is. So yeah, tape.
Hang on, I would like to go around the room. Yeah, it was tape. So I think it turns out that like some of the tape that they used around electrical connections is highly flammable or something like that.
That's the adhesive of it is highly flammable.
Yeah. So I mean, if I may speak out of both sides of my mouth for a moment, like certainly, especially if we're going to put humans on this thing, much prefer be on the ground wishing we were in the air than in the air wishing we were on the ground, right? Jared, I stole that line right from you. I feel like you were going to say that later on, but like, yeah, it's very true.
Thank you, Jamie.
At the same time, if I may speak out of the other side of my mouth for a moment, didn't Boeing get $3 billion extra for schedule assurance?
They got extra money.
They got a lot of extra money. It's so Vax Headroom is saying in the chat room it's flammable in a greater than 23% oxygen environment, but would it not be a greater than 23% oxygen environment inside of the capsule? Right? Like, why not? Dolly, you're shaking your head no. Why would it not be greater?
Because they learned that lesson in Apollo 1, that they have a split gas system. They're providing nitrox or something like that.
So if it's nitrox, then why is this an issue?
Maybe because they have requirements, and they say, but it could get to 24. And I don't know how actually important this question is, but if it's 23% oxygen, that's what I'm breathing now, by one way of counting, or 21 by another.
So are we saying, well, okay, I guess that brings up the question, what is the nitrox mixture inside the capsule? Is it greater than 23% oxygen? Is 21%? So if it's 21%, I guess their concern is that if the mixture becomes greater than, if the mixture ratio changes, it could go 23, 24%, and all of a sudden we've got this adhesive that could be very, very flammable, and fire in space equals bad. Did I summarize that correctly?
Yes.
I thought there were two issues. You go ahead.
Let me clarify the 21 versus 23. Those are the round numbers if you count them by numbers of molecules, or if you count them by mass. That's the difference. So I don't know which one the 23 that they're saying about the tape burning in is, but it's close enough that the point is made.
Eduardo says, use that tape for university project. The details in the box say hazardous no, flammable no. Might want to change that. So then that begs the question, is this actually Boeing's fault, or is this, were they given bad data, made assumptions based on the data that they were given, or not even made assumptions, but came to conclusions based on the data that they were given. I mean, it's the thing with Starliner is it's so late, and there was so much money thrown into it, and because of a ton of mistakes with Boeing with regards to like airplanes and other it's easy to just rag on it, But
Yeah.
maybe it actually isn't their fault. Like, we don't have all of the information. We don't know what happened behind the scenes.
From my perspective, it just looks like the entire commercial crew program, in one way or another, has seen delays. Dragon was delayed. Starliner's been delayed, just a little bit more than Dragon. I think the comparison is being made where Dragon has flown from a company who was new to the game, SpaceX. We look at them now as pretty experienced, but back in the day, compared to Boeing, they were new to the game, and yet they've kind of just came up to the challenge and just flown with Dragon with minimal to no problems. And then people look at the Starliner vehicle and they see it basically, well, it hasn't flown humans yet, and yet SpaceX are now coming up to the end of their first commercial crew contract. That's in my opinion, what is being perceived by the community at the moment. Not saying that it's 100% the truth, but that's what it's being that's how it's being seen by the community. Boeing having problems when the new underdog in SpaceX has taken the lead with less delays and a more kind of futuristic modern capsule. I say in big air quotes because it depends how you look at it.
Jared, I think either you have an itch on your face or you want to say something.
No, I want to say something, which actually, Eka in the chat room has a perfect comment, I think, that describes one of the issues in commercial crew, which is that Congress made those initial delays due to not fully funding it in the beginning. So, I mean, yeah, there was a lot of delays simply because Congress critters wanted to move money to certain specific areas, and that's what happens when that happens. I also feel like there's a really big component in the fact that commercial crew, there was no standard for this beforehand. This is the first time we were handing over the building of spacecraft to a completely commercial entity. This is the first time anybody was doing that. So this was a program, I think a bleeding edge program. And unlike a DARPA program where somebody can reach a point and then say, you know what, this isn't really a possibility, with commercial crew reaching a point and saying, I don't think we could do this, probably would have been a absolutely epic failure. And again, I'm sure Congress would have absolutely taken notice of that. And the results probably would have been even worse than just simply having to delay a vehicle because it's unsafe.
JTTV does have a valid point, which is Congress underfunds every project. Look at any rail or road project. It isn't just limited to aerospace. And even though it was underfunded, I would argue that commercial space thus far has been wildly successful. And is that why maybe Boeing is struggling so hard? Because it was a new type of contract. It was a new way of doing things. It wasn't the old school cost plus. Imagine if Starliner was cost plus right now. No, really. Like, think it like.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jared.
Oh, I could tell you, I'm pretty sure Boeing's not particularly thrilled about the fact that it was a fixed price contract because over the course of Starliner, with the delays and all the changes that they've had to make, they're probably, I would imagine, in excess of having to have eaten $1 billion of their own dollars at this point. That might almost mitigate the revenue you would get from a contract like that.
Let's go around the room really quickly. You mentioned Boeing, like, we don't have a net date. We don't have a no earlier than launch date for Starliner. We don't know when this thing is going to go. I'm wondering, because it is so woefully over budget, I mean, I'm assuming it's woefully over budget internally. I guess we don't really get to see those numbers. Like, Boeing's not doing bad, but they're not doing great. I'm wondering if they're going to look at this program and just be like, nah, we're done. We're not going to do this. So do we think, around the room, do we think Starliner will ever actually send humans to the International Space Station? Dolly, let's start with you.
Yes. Yes, I think it will. I think Boeing will suck it up as a matter of company pride and spend the money that would buy them back ULA, roughly, to not lose face in this regard. But, you know, this is my intuition. I don't know.
I mean, none of us know. Ryan?
I think Starliner will send humans to a space station, but I'm not going to say that they will send humans to the International Space Station just because of the fact that it's only got, I mean, what's the time? 2023? And it could be gone in the next 7-8 years. Like, worst case scenario, 2028, 2029.
You were saying you don't think Starliner would launch in the next 7 to 8 years. You think it would launch, but not in 7 to 8 years? Come on, man.
I'm just saying, worst case scenario. No, I think there's a good chance of flying humans to the International Space Station. Whether they get multiple flights out of that, I don't know, because SpaceX has kind of just wrapped up the contracts at this point. NASA obviously wants that redundancy. Dragon's been proven to be reliable. I'm not saying redundancy isn't a good thing, but Starliner definitely will not be able to serve the purpose it was intended to serve, flying alongside Dragon for the duration that Dragon has flown. It hasn't. NASA doesn't have redundancy at the moment, and it hasn't been a problem yet. Not saying, God forbid, it won't be a problem in the future, but Starliner is probably only going to get 2-3 flights, in my opinion. This is how I'm looking at it, considering they're only going to be flying once a year once they have Dragon and Starliner. So naturally, its flight rate will be reduced because it has Dragon alongside it.
I do want to touch on one other thing, but before I do that, Dan in the chat room said the ISS lifetime would be extended for Boeing crew flight test.
Ouch. Ouch.
Ouch. That's a good one. Thanks, Dan. So you said maybe not the International Space Station. You would also not assume that it's not going to any other space station, right? It's not going to like an Axiom space station, or like it's definitely not going to Tiangong, right? Their options today are ISS.
Tiangong, maybe. If you think about it.
It's ISS. No, if you think, hang on, no. If you think about it, it's not Tiangong.
Physically, it's both.
No, there's no way. There's no way Boeing is going to dock. No.
Philip in the chat room has it, which is that it's going to orbital reef. So
yes, that's what I was about to say. Orbital reef will be Starliner's kind of the point of Starliner, but then you have Dream Chaser. So what's the point of Starliner? Redundancy. Everyone loves the word redundancy.
What's the government? The government will pay twice.
Yeah, but the businesses going to orbital reef will not pay twice the money.
Why have one when you can have two at twice the price, right?
Yeah, but Dolly's point is okay. Yeah, I mean, a government would certainly do that, and they do. I don't. But Dolly, you're saying why would a private enterprise do that? That's crazy for private enterprise. Is that your point?
That's my point. Is orbital reef is going to be commercial, primarily. Yes, the government will buy some things. So yeah, sure, the government might say we want to be able to get to this thing like the ISS and do it. But I don't really see commercial people being willing to pay an extra 50 or 60 million or whatever the number would be to get 4 people, or maybe 7 if they, get their seats out of the ass end of the thing, or no, the cargo. I don't know. It was supposed to be 7. Why isn't it 7?
In what? Well, before we get into that,
I can't ask you.
All right. Before we get into that, we're going to try something new. Okay. I believe we have Vax Headroom. I don't know how well this will work, so allow us an opportunity. Vax, it has been a hot minute since you have been on the show. He downloaded Chrome just for us.
No, actually, it runs in Edge. It'll run in Edge. So I tried it in Edge. I usually use Firefox.
You need to pull your input volume down by a good 12 dB, Vax.
Hold on. And work.
It's hard to do that out on the drone ship, so.
Did it recently land behind you? Is it currently dumping locks? What's going on?
Okay, hold on.
The deck is dry. We're troubleshooting live.
Love it.
Okay, how's that?
Better. I think it's quite a bit better.
Is that what you want? Up or down?
Up 6 dB.
Back half. How's that?
There you go. Yep, sounds about right. So, talk to us about Starliner.
The only thing I know is the things that I've read online and have already talked about. The fact that they're using a deprecated. Apparently, the tape that they're using is a deprecated material. It's not approved anymore, but it was approved at the time they did the design. So. I mean, how do you qualify it, right? If you have to go back and change that, then it's, a lot of work to tear it out of. But you'd only have to take it out of a pressurized vessel area. You don't have to take it out of anything that's going to be in vacuum. No oxygen there, right? So, and it's not like it's going to burst into flame or anything. It's just, it's going to be, if there's a fire, it would burn if it was in greater than 20%, 23%, or whatever the number is. So. Okay.
Okay, I guess just any fire in space is bad if it's not controlled.
It's bad.
Right? Like even if it's
Yeah.
not, if it may not be exploding, but like it's consuming oxygen, it's putting out smoke, it's doing, who knows? Especially if it's on electrical wiring, like is it melting through infrastructure? Like
Yeah.
I
Important
mean,
to note,
you want to
materials
avoid
of
that.
spacecraft.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
a bad
materials
plan.
of
No,
spacecraft,
that's
bad.
no good day in space with fire,
So, Vax, what's your opinion? We went around the room. When do you think? Well, I'm sorry, that wasn't the question. Do you think Starliner will actually fly?
Yes.
Or
I
is
think
this just a
I think
minor
it'll
setback?
fly. I think it's a PR nightmare. Whether it's a big technical problem or not, I have no insight.
Well,
So-
wait, though. PR is part of it, right?
Oh, no,
I'm not saying it's not flying because of technical. I'm saying media relations could be like, no, we can't fly this thing. We like the CEO could be like, no, this is egg on our face. We need to put a stop to this. Like that's a very real scenario too, is it not?
Yeah. So, how many Starliners have they built, or are they going to build? Do you know what the plan is? I don't know. Is it more than one? They're not building just one, I wouldn't think.
I'm gonna assume that they would have had one for the demonstration one that didn't work, and then a second one for their demonstration one which did work, and then one or two more for ground testing. So I guess around 4, and then for this upcoming through flight, I guess probably 4 or 5 so far just for what we've seen. But that's just a guess.
Yeah.
Phillips Whitehouse in the chat room says they're only planning to build like 2.
Yeah, so I mean, the question would be, how far have they gotten in any subsequent units that they're going to build? Don't know.
Fair enough.
Like I said, no insight there.
All right. Thank you, Vax. Thank you, first off, for being the first guest that we brought in this way ever on the show, which was fun and interesting. This was a lot of fun. It's been a long time since we've had you on the show.
It's
People
been
want to
years,
go back.
man. Yeah, it's been a long time.
If people want to go
Everything's been
back,
years, but
yeah, that's true. If people want to go back, you did a magical show. I think, were we Space Vidcast at the time? We did a magical show that was all about Sea Dragon. So either search TMRO Sea Dragon or Space Vidcast Sea Dragon, and you can find it. So again, thank you, Vax, so much. Actually, Eddie has a really good question. I don't know the answer to it, and maybe we're about to go around the room and no one knows. But what is the price per seat on the Starliner? Does anyone know?
More than one.
More than one. It's more than Crew Dragon, is it not? Or is it? I don't
I'd
actually
imagine
know.
so, considering it's less reusable.
Yeah, I believe there was that cost analysis that came out last year that was basically talking about the differences between Crew Dragon and Starliner costs, and Starliner was even more expensive than Soyuz at that time. So, yeah, which is that's pretty bad.
Airvale says
Like
OIG estimates it was 90 million per seat.
Which is more
hurts.
than Soyuz, or about the same as Soyuz.
Go ahead, Jared.
I remember that Boeing was basically saying, yes, the 90 mil is A-okay because we can bring back cargo. And it's like we could bring back a whole person worth of cargo. So, like, you're getting a bonus because you're also bringing back $90 million worth of cargo. And, like, boy, there was the marketing team trying to swoop in and save the day there.
I mean, they got to try something. Boeing wasn't the only fail. I'm apprehensive to call Boeing a fail, right? They didn't put anyone's lives in danger. They didn't actually make it to orbit. Like, engineering is hard. They found the issue on the ground. Is that a failure?
Yeah. They found the issue, but
yeah,
it's just this. It would have been nice if they sorted this out like 3-4 years ago. That's all. In there,
Scott-
it's perceived as a race between SpaceX and Boeing. It's not a race, but it's perceived as a race, and Boeing has lost that perceived race. That's the problem which we're discussing essentially.
Yeah, I agree, and especially since Boeing was not like SpaceX at the time was the underdog. It's like how did not only did they beat you, but beat you by so much. Yeah, poor Boeing. Although I think we'll end on a comment from the chat room from Scott Herod that says Starliner.
Fair enough.
You guys are funny. I love it. Ryan, how's NASA's spaceflight going?
It's good question. It's going brilliant. Let's have a look, shall we? Going well.
Is that NASA? Did you
that's
hold
Space
up?
Coast Live.
Did you sneak NASA spaceflight into the tomorrow?
It's been there since like 12 months. Whenever I got this thing, it's been there. It was Starbase Live. No, originally it was the ISS, then it was Starbase Live. Now it's Space Coast Live. NSF.live/Space Coast if anyone's interested.
So am I allowed to ask what's your role over at NASA Spaceflight? What are you working on over there?
I host videos, I edit videos, I made some pretty graphic. Well, I think they're pretty. Made some graphics.
So what you do
working on
here?
some cool stuff. So yeah, pretty much what I do here, except I'm except I do it a little bit more regulated and controlled. I'll put it that way.
So you had some.
Is in the mail.
Yes.
And a wild data appears.
Yes.
and then disappears. So Boeing wasn't the only one having troubles this last week. Talk to us about North Korea, Ryan.
Oh, North Korea. How things have gone. So that's not North Korea. I'm trying to find the image here. Okay, so they launched a rocket. I forgot what it was called, but it was Chiangong 1, something along those lines. I apologise for forgetting. Very picturesque launch site, very pretty. First stage burn appears to have gone okay. I'd imagine like Firefly Alpha's first flight. First stage burn went okay. Firefly Alpha didn't actually get that far, but just imagine, this is kind of the speculated theory. So first stage burn went okay, second stage separates. And that's pretty much all we heard. So this is the image we got out of the DPRK of the, I think it's the Seiho satellite launching facility or something along those lines. It's very pretty. What's this one? There you go, another image there. Look at, I mean, it's kind of got
beautiful,
Vandenberg vibes. Yeah. With a bit of your Baikonur, Vostochny kind of towers here that you see in Russia and whatnot. But then a few hours later, we got some images out of the South Korean military because they had obtained a rocket which had fallen into the sea, and unfortunately, it was in a few pieces. This is one of the pieces, and something that was brought to pretty much everyone's attention straight away is the interesting engineering of the tank domes.
I was just looking at that. What's all the weird shapes
together?
The weird shapes in the pressure vessel. What's going on there?
I have no idea what's going on. I'd love to get the chat room's thoughts on this, but it kind of looks like they've got plasterboard and kind of patched it together with some kind of gluey paint stuff. That's kind of what it's reminding me of. Maybe some kind of plaster of Paris in there as well. But it's
hang on, that could be thermal on top though, right? Like we can't tell from this picture. That could be a thermal like blanket sitting on top that's just kind of quilted together. That may not be the actual metal pressure vessel, because if you look at the little valve releasey thing on the right hand side, if you're able to zoom me into that, yeah, like you can see the clear metal there around it, and then it kind of dips in. So I'm wondering if that's just like a material that they put on top of the metal, and the metal itself doesn't actually have that.
Yeah, Peritron saying paper mache rocket. I'd hope not. And if it was made out of paper mache, then no wonder it couldn't get to orbit. But yeah, I'm just like, because I'm looking at, we're obviously very used to like the kind of smooth domes, plate and plug that you see with Starship, kind of like this, which is like all nice and smooth, and then just to see this is kind of
in all fairness,
that's all.
In all fairness, Ryan, do you have the picture of the very first Starship that was revealed?
we're not going to talk about that because then my analogy doesn't work.
That would
I had this
imply
planned out in my head.
This one flew. That one didn't fly.
That's fair.
Oh,
That's
but
fair.
we were
Well,
told.
a bit of
Well-
it flew unintentionally, I may add.
So you said they had good stage 1 flight, and then they possibly pulled a relativity.
That's the theory, because what we're seeing is we're seeing second and third stages kind of appear in the area which like the NOTMAR, the Notice to Mariners, where the first stage was meant to come in. So that's kind of what's being assumed based on where things have crashed, where they have, with what we're being told. So I might bring up a map actually, just to try and get some context to everyone, because you think of North Korea, you can't really go to the east, which is the ideal kind of trajectory because of Earth rotation.
Oh, you can
and
go
stuff.
to the east. You'll just make some people upset.
Well, yeah.
Trying to not start a war. Is that your point?
Yeah. Okay, so the stalling for timer. Here we go. So the launch site is somewhere around here. I think it might be here. Anyway, somewhere around here. So no, it did not launch east. It came down this way, and then did a big old dogleg. Well, it was intending to do a big old dogleg to come down this way. So you can see the trajectory. So if I try to zoom out here a bit, so it would be kind of coming out this way towards China,
Wait.
doing a
Wait,
big
so
old dogleg down into
They
the Pacific.
flew retrograde. We're going to dogleg, and
Yes.
then were they going to continue retrograde, or like how
So-
much energy does this rocket have?
That is
I'd
flex.
say not enough because it didn't get to orbit, but ideally it would have enough to kind of go retrograde a bit, do a big old dogleg to then start heading south towards prograde. So kind of following this line down here along Taiwan and the Philippines down towards Papua New Guinea. That was kind of the trajectory there.
Well, was the truth.
Wow.
Go ahead, Dolly.
That dog leg is an amazing flex. If you wanted to show off that you had Delta V to spend, throw a 45-degree dog leg in at the stage break or something. Holy crap! Wow.
Yeah, that's insane. I'm still trying to wrap my head around that particular flight plan, and I get why they're doing it. I just don't get how they're doing it. And obviously they didn't. But like, if they were successful, like how? Like that's amazing.
I mean, it doesn't take the cake for the most impressive dogleg, because I brought up the H3 inaugural flight from Japan, which is kind of their Falcon 9 kind of equivalent rocket, which they're working on. The first launch wasn't successful. However, it had a 90-degree essentially dogleg out of the space center in Japan. So it's not the most impressive dogleg, but it's certainly one whopper of a dogleg. You can see
Yeah.
the H3 here went out this way and then turned to the right this way.
That
Probably
looks
more
like
80 degrees.
Sure, it does also look less steep than the maneuver that North Korea would have had to make. It looked to me like North Korea was going to have to make a really sharp turn. This looks a little more gradual. And I mean, yeah, you're still losing. I just want to say, kind of like their graphics. sorry. They're nice looking though, right? Look at that. They're nice and clean. I like it. The timeline's horizontal, not vertical. Like, well done. Can't read them, but like I like them. X plus. How very SpaceX of them. So
Very, very nice. So, but the difference between these two, one of those was intentionally orbital, and I'm assuming that nothing from Pyongyang is intended to reach orbit. It's just intended to reach a far suborbital target. Am I correct?
or polar orbit.
Well, yes. If they wanted to actually put something up and keep it there, that would be very interesting. That would be
But
much
yeah,
more
maybe
Payload
they were
for
just
this was
lagging down for.
was a spy satellite. Well, it was meant to be a spy satellite
Okay.
that went to about 500 kilometers. So that's
So
what they were
polar
trying to
orbit
put
then.
into orbit.
So
here.
they're going to
Yeah.
polar orbit. They were going to leg again. They were just going to dog leg down and then continue with the polar orbit, right? That makes more sense, doesn't it?
They just can't fly over their neighbors because their neighbors get upset considering who they are and where they are.
Yeah, fair enough.
just fly north
it's
over
important
China.
to
They
note
don't
that
mind.
They have gotten 2 payloads into orbit around the Earth, so it's not like this is some unprecedented thing that they've done.
North
They've
Korea
actually
has
gotten satellites in orbit around the Earth. So
North Korea has 2 satellites put up. I didn't
Yes.
know. Thank you. Today I've learned.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
I'm more
are they both?
impressed.
Are they geo or polar? Like, what kind of orbit are they in? Do you know?
Polar.
Okay.
But also, if you ask North Korea, they've launched 100.
Touche, Jared. Touche. Well played. Well played. All right. Did you have any other? Sorry, I totally stalled on this story, Ryan. Did you have more data on this one, or should I move on?
That was pretty much it. I just thought it was quite funny that their neighbours in the south have just discovered their rocket just bobbing about in the ocean, I'd suspect. So, yeah.
Well, watch. What, are you guys ready for this segue? You ready for this? Here we go. Well, speaking of dumping a rocket in water, Jared has a story. Yeah, he likes this of Enceladus and its ocean.
Oh, man.
Ocean to
What a
ocean.
great-
Actually,
what a
I didn't
great-
hang on. I didn't introduce you, Jared. So you currently, I'm allowed to say that you work at the Griffith Observatory. You give
Yes.
the most amazing tours ever. If anyone's ever in the Los Angeles area, hit up Jared, ask for a tour. Are they allowed to do that? Doesn't matter. Do it anyhow.
Okay, sure. Put me on the spot. That's fine.
Am I allowed to
we'll
video
figure it
that?
out. I think if I'm off the clock, sure, we can make that happen. Maybe. We'll have to see. So
I'm getting Jared in trouble.
it's complicated.
Wink,
so,
wink.
Like a many great things, it's complicated.
So Jared's role on the show, for those who don't know, is to convince me that astronomy's not stupid. So, ready, go. He's
All right.
done really well over the years.
I gotta
He's done
say,
really well.
It's I'm not going to make the obvious Starlink joke about it because that's just not nice today. I was going to say it's mighty hard to do it for someone who works for a company that's ruining it. But anyways,
You are welcome.
thank you guys so much. We appreciate having to spend our own money to figure out how to remove the streaks. All right, so but using what everyone always says that we should just build a bajillion of, but never give us the money of, a space telescope, this one specifically, Telescope Boloscope, we have been able to look at one of Saturn's moons. Now, we did not have any missions in the outer solar system active at Saturn, Uranus, or Neptune, so JW is kind of our means by which to be able to explore from afar, and that's very, very helpful, especially because it looks in the infrared, and infrared light heat allows you to see things that you otherwise can't with your eyes, invisible light. And one of those things that we got to see was Enceladus, or Jamie, as you like to call Enceladus. You like
Enceladus.
to call it? Enceladus. So, imaging Enceladus for some survey work, they were actually able to detect the water plumes that Cassini had discovered during its mission when it was at Saturn from 2004 until its end in 2018. And, looking at the imagery of that plume itself was absolutely fascinating because we were able to see that the plume was significantly larger than was expected. So there's more material actually coming out. And that material is water. And Enceladus is a place that is so close to Saturn that the tidal forces kind of flex it and end up heating up the interior and causing, I guess the best way to describe it, I don't know if I call them cryovolcanoes, but geysers, but really big geysers shooting out of its south pole, just spewing water vapor out. And we were able to look at it with JW, and we were able to find that there's a lot more coming out than was originally thought. In fact, the scientists doing the study of it ended up going and double checking and triple checking their data, and then asked everybody to kind of show them wrong because they just thought there's no way that there's this amount of water vapor actually coming out. This is more than what we were expecting from the Cassini data. Well, it turns out Cassini spacecraft not exactly made to study that because that wasn't known until literally Cassini happened to fly behind Enceladus while taking images from behind it. Then all of a sudden we saw the geysers. Turns out Cassini didn't have the instruments to really measure that as effectively as we wanted to. But Telescope can, And it has, and it's significantly more than we were expecting. And a lot of that actually stays around Enceladus. So a mission to Enceladus to actually sample the water or maybe bring some of that back should be a lot easier than we were expecting it to be. And that should make a mission to Enceladus a big priority, which it was in our last planetary decadal survey. So very exciting stuff coming from the outer solar system, a place that just doesn't get enough love.
Easier than you expect it to be. It's still really freaking hard, Jared. It's still really, really hard.
Oh,
let me ask you.
Absolutely.
Let me ask you this though, and forgive my bluntness. Who cares? So Enceladus has water farts. What's it matter? Who cares? Water farts on a moon. What does this matter? What could this bring us?
Well, obviously, the biggest sort of sell on Enceladus would be finding life at Enceladus, or finding conditions for life, the possibility of it being there, getting to study it and understanding it and comparing and contrasting to what we have here on Earth. Also helps out with climate here on Earth as well. Get to see different types of geology. And in addition to that, the technological development, right? You got to be able to build all these amazing technologies in order to actually have your spacecraft work on its way there.
How does that help with climate? I don't understand.
With climate?
Yeah, how does it help
did I
with
say
climate here on Earth?
Whoops, I'm sorry. I meant geology, like straight up geology. Did I not say geology?
You said climate. You said it would help with climate here on Earth, and I'm like, how does it help with climate on Earth?
No, not quite. So geology, I'm sorry. I got that mixed up. Boy, didn't I? That's a little bit of a difference. So
okay, but then same question. How's it helping with geology? Just like understanding like that flex, the flex due to it's gravitational flex, right? As it like Saturn's pulling and
it's essentially with tidal forces, gravity pulling on the material, that Enceladus is made out of, and flexing it back and forth and causing it to heat up. And I guess it would be some like very large compressional forces with that going on there. So
Bennett may have the new winning chat for the show. We'll find out in a moment. We'll see how everyone feels. Bennett Elder says, also gives nerds something to do other than crypto mine.
That's true.
That's true. A good one, Bennett. I like that one, Bennett. Well played. Well played.
I also do want to point out that Enceladus is water. There's lots of water there, and it's spewing it out. So water kind of important for if you want to send people and rockets to other places in the solar system. So, right?
So
hydrogen and oxygen. Those two things are kind of important for people or fuel for your vehicle. So you could use Enceladus as like a 7-Eleven, if you will, for our solar system.
Actually, that's where New Glen's Hydrolox, right? It's not Carolox. Question mark? New Glen's Hydrolox, or is it Carolox?
The upper stage is Hydrolox.
New Shepard is Hydrolox. New Glen is Carolox first stage. Sorry, so not Carolox, Methalox.
Okay, which one's Hydrolox? New Shepard? Upper stage?
New Shepard, the upper stage that has been doing suborbital hops.
I think I know what you're about to say, Jamie.
Well, right. Wouldn't that be an amazing vehicle to send there then? Because if you're doing Hydrolox, you've got all of the elements necessary to build your fuel right there and come home. Mm-hmm. Right? So wouldn't that be an amazing...
Why don't we just send a Blue Moon lander? It would only need, several different refueling missions, which is definitely not highly or very complex and high risk at all.
No, not at all. Piece of cake.
Didn't they say that? Hang on, Ryan. Wait. Didn't they say that in the Apollo era? Isn't that why the lunar rendezvous orbit was like poo-pooed? Because they're like, you want to do what in lunar orbit? You want to do what in space? You want to like do all of these rendezvous and everything else? We just need to go direct there, right? Didn't von Braun want to go direct there? And then it turns out that actually it's not that hard. Like, don't we do refueling on space station all the time? Is this really that hard? Am I making this sound simpler than it is?
Yes,
the difference turned it from from 8 to 5 engines. That's a big difference.
Sure. It's like you're gonna have cryo burn off, right? You've got to protect your fuels and whatnot. But like
cryo is a whole different animal. Like that is a whole new species of storable propellants in space. That's tough to do.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Yeah, this mission wouldn't require storing them. You'd use all of it getting there, and use a little of something else getting stopped and get your infrastructure, and then your infrastructure stores it and dumps it off. Now that means your infrastructure is a lot heavier than the launch rocket, but let's assume that we're not just doing a single sample return with a system like that.
Eddie Joker as ZYT, Zulu Yankee Tango, asks, why Blue Moon, why not Starliner? Well, first off, Enceladus is not a star, so you did not need to capitalize star. but the reason is because of Hydrolux, right? Because, not Blue Moon, but the new Shepard vehicles, what we were talking about. I was going towards Hydrolux because you've got water on Enceladus. That's what Jared's super excited about, is water on Enceladus just spewing out everywhere. And obviously there's
more than we expected.
Well, is it more or further or both?
Yes. Yeah. So both. So it's spewing out more. More of it is staying around Enceladus than was anticipated, and more of it is going into orbit and making actually what we call the E ring, which is the outer, very diffuse ring of material around Saturn. So significantly more than was expected.
Wait. So you're saying that am I understanding correctly that part of Saturn's ring is water from Enceladus?
Yes. Yeah, water ice from Enceladus.
That's kind of badass. I'm going to give you points for that one.
Is.
That's pretty cool.
Thanks.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. I'll give you all the credit too, Jared, right? Because you're here to convince me that astronomy isn't stupid.
I was
you do a pretty
good
good job
that way because it makes me feel good.
Hey, you're doing a pretty good job. I actually do enjoy it. Like, that's pretty awesome. That's pretty epic.
I would just like to point out quickly, though, that Blue Moon is, according to Blue Origin's website, don't know how outdated it is, but it is powered by Hydrolux. So that is another option, not just New Glenn.
Actually, that's a good point. Then meet Blue Moon. What a great
Hello,
website.
Blue Moon.
But yeah, like it just would need to be Hydrolux. And then to the question earlier, why not Starliner? Starliner is Methalox, right? So you could fill your liquid oxygen tank when you get to Enceladus, but where are you getting your liquid methane from? Now, when we find life on Enceladus, the life may give off methane, and that might be where we get the methane from. But until we find that life,
that feels like an ethical minefield, and I'm not going to walk through that one blindfolded tonight.
We just need to bring the McGregor cows with us.
But Jared, I was leading you straight to it. Come on.
If I've got water coming out of Enceladus and there's life there, can I detect it without landing?
Actually, I don't know about that. I would have to. The key, the most critical component to detecting life is that you want to make sure that it's not something you accidentally brought with you. So,
not landing would really help.
It would, but the problem is that you've got to be able to do that with very high confidence. I feel like you would have to fly through the plume and grab stuff. Maybe you could have like the Stardust mission or the Genesis mission, which had what's it called? I just had it in my head. The aerogel that can capture that water or that ice material, and then some sort of chemistry lab on board of your vehicle that we can then
bring it home.
Put individual things with. So
bring it all the way home. That only requires a little bigger rocket, right?
Yeah, just a little bit, or a free return trajectory from Saturn through the plume of Enceladus, which if you could do that, you are an absolute wizard of trajectory development and things.
You just need someone with a few hundred hours on KSP, and they'll do it fine. They'll do it fast.
I can
do it manually
no
using
problem.
the keyboard as well.
I mean,
yeah.
I did it.
I will say,
I'll only have 1,000 delta
they
V too
pay
much.
loads of money.
I will say,
Reddit said it was easy, so.
I will say, if we're going to Enceladus, we're landing on Enceladus, we're drilling through how thick is the ice? It's like miles long, kilometers.
We're not going to drill through the ice. That's the whole idea. You don't have to drill through the ice. There's geysers at the surface.
You're missing my point.
The geyser.
Okay, you go into the geyser. Okay, great.
Geyser.
So we land on Enceladus. We then the submarine
drive something.
Right, the submarine drops into
the edge of the geyser.
It's a submarine. We have to have a submarine that sends back live imagery.
Fine.
I require a submarine.
Fine. fine. You got to take your villain kick into this and just make it however you want with it, right? So
That's what I want.
I understand.
This is how
We've got a
Jamie's going to get
helicopter
her
on
tomorrow
Mars, a
ocean
submarine
show.
on
We're going to put a
Enceladus, no
submarine
problem.
on Enceladus.
Wait a minute, Dolly, you're totally right. We've got a helicopter on Mars. I want a submarine on Enceladus. That
course,
should be
why
the
not?
title for this show. Helicopter on Mars, submarine on Enceladus. Absolutely. Subship. Yes, I
you know-
am. You got me excited about astronomy.
You don't necessarily have to have a submarine either, because the whole idea, especially at Europa, where they think that you're most likely going to have your life, is actually going to be at the ice-water boundary. And at JPL, I have seen that they have designed rovers that are positively buoyant. So basically, they would deploy it into the ocean, and then because it has positive buoyancy, it would push itself up against the ice, and then it would drive around on the bottom of the ice, being able to do that. So that would be fantastic to be able to do something like that. I mean, just thinking about it, I get excited about it, and then actually getting to go do it, and then do it at Enceladus as well. That's bonkers.
Eddie Joker did correct us. Eddie Joker, Zulu, Yankee, Tango said Star Marine, not submarine, because everything has to start with a star now. Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, Vax
Gotcha.
Headroom says they're already testing that in Antarctica. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen videos of them testing that in Alaska as well. So
This is
in
going to
lakes.
diverge. This is going to diverge very quickly into other things. You know what? Actually, hang on. What we're going to do
We should
is,
talk about, maybe we should look at those videos in the show, after show, for our members.
diverging alternate transport on planets. In
Alternate
the after show,
transport on
I'm making
planet.
a note so we remember diverging alternate
Villainous
transport on planets.
submarine design.
We did right. We did a helicopter. I want a submarine. We got hot air balloons on Venus. Like, I want to talk about this, and we'll bring this up in the member.
So where's the
stream.
train going?
Train? Yes, exactly. Train.
What's a train?
Air balloon. Oh God.
Ryan,
It's a
this is America.
car
What's a train?
on rails.
So
It's a
talking
beef
about
car.
talking
We're
about
going to have to find escalators.
post show people.
Post
So
show.
Yeah.
talking about all of the crazy delta V necessary to get to Enceladus and capture water and then come back and then do all of that. I'm going to hand it off to Dolly. And one of the topics you had a bunch of topics, but one of the topics you had was fusion bad, fission good.
Yeah.
Does that relate to just power, or does that relate to transit, or both?
Well, yeah, transit for power or power for transit or something like that. And also power to operate your spacecraft there. So it isn't necessarily the delta V, although it may be electric ion kind of thing, which can over time develop to an amazing amount of delta V without losing too much of your spacecraft mass to propellant mass. So nuclear reactors, I think, are the way to get down to a decent enough power to weight ratio to make them work. And then, of course, you have plenty of power once you get there to do whatever it is that you went there for. That's the important thing. There is so much attention, and here's where I'm going to get negative, on fusion. We keep being excited about moving towards some sort of a unity gain on fusion. And that unity gain is actually an order of magnitude away from practical commercial. So if the gains we've made in the last 50 years continue at the same rate, fusion will be competitive with fission in about 100 years. So that's not good enough. I don't think fission is going to reach economic positive. I do think maybe in my lifetime, maybe not, will reach possible.
But
To generate power.
technology doesn't work on a linear scale, generally speaking, right? Don't we usually see some sort
I'm
of
working
hockey
on the
stick?
exponential.
Oh, so
scale.
you are not working
I'm saying-
linearly. You're expecting an exponential.
Right.
Jump.
They've gotten about 10x better in the last 50 years. When they get
Okay.
10x better again, they'll be commercially viable, and then with improvements from there could become competitive with fission.
But if it's
Fission is
10
actually really good.
But if it, so I'm not arguing against fusion. I'm just saying that if it was 10x what it was 10x better in 50 years. You said, right?
Yeah.
Isn't it usually? Can't we expect, in general, obviously, things change, but can't we expect a doubling again in half the time? So it takes so instead of 50 years, now it's 25 years, but now you get your 10x, and then you get a doubling again in half the time. Isn't that usually
Almost
how
like
these things graph out?
like a Moore's law.
No, you
Yeah,
might be able to
exactly
you might
like
be able to
Moore's
cut
law.
the difference. You might be able to cut the difference between the asymptotic limit. But yeah, and maybe I'm being too specific about it. You're saying that it should speed up, and so I'm being too pessimistic.
No,
Okay.
I'm asking. Isn't that a possibility? Like, don't
Sure,
we see this generally speaking with technology?
One big breakthrough, and everything I'm saying goes away. One
fair.
really big fundamental breakthrough, and there are several that promise to have that possibility of that breakthrough.
The downside of fusion, though, is the waste, is it not? Like, we became...
Oh, I don't care. Totally don't care.
Yeah, but I mean, people care.
No, I
Right?
mean,
Like-
I'm not worried about it. The waste is not a problem where it's sitting now, waiting to be put into a can-do reactor. Basically, we have not put these things into Yucca Mountain, and I'm really glad we haven't, because right now they're sitting in cooling ponds in nice, safe, secure places. And as soon as everybody else grabs enough of the can-do technology, CANDU, we can talk about that later, that can take the waste from other reactors and grab several more years of fuel on it, and then recycle that back into itself. The can-do is so cool, it can use the uranium unenriched right out of the ground because it uses heavy water. Go ahead, Jared.
I was going to say, usually one of the biggest problems overall with nuclear is that you say the word nuclear and everybody panics immediately. I mean, during the launches of Galileo and Ulysses on the space shuttle, because of the high accident rate of the shuttle, and also those were launches that were just a couple of years after Challenger, there were massive protests at both of those launches because Galileo and Ulysses used radiothermal isotope generators, RTGs, in order to make their power. And there was also, protests when Cassini was launched on a Titan IV, and when Perseverance and Curiosity were launched as well, because they have RTGs. So there's a really big public perception that is very strongly negative against any sort of nuclear technology. Now, I personally don't have a problem with fission. I look at that as like a critical component to combating climatic change, and like get over it and get used to it and make better systems. But overall,
whoa, where did that come from? Like, why? Wait,
What?
hang on. Why does it matter between fission and fusion for climatic change? Right? Like, both of them
because
would
we have
serve the
fission
same.
now.
Yes.
That's what Dali's saying, is that we have fission now. Fusion has been 10 years away for 70 years. So, it's use what you have now as opposed to wait for what may be. Stop
this is
waiting on
keeping
the
your eye
dream
on
and
the
start
ball.
actually acting on it.
Put your attention on the place where you actually can make progress in my lifetime, because I'm selfish. Okay. And I'm fine with all of the fusion research. Big round of applause for them, but please let us not wait for warp drive before we go to Mars. And that's what I think the attention on fusion research is takes us away from thinking about this fusion thing, which has worked my whole life, and has killed way fewer people than solar panels, which has killed way fewer people than coal.
So, forgive my ignorance, but we've got waste with fission that creates a problem for people. Just whether or not it's people don't like that idea.
Sure.
You've got we had Chernobyl. We had what was it? 3 Mile Island? I forget the number of miles. But
3 Mile Island.
We had these incidents, right? And so people are just apprehensive. With fusion, do we have those same potential issues, or do we have worse issues? Like, do we have a storage problem of waste? Do we have potential meltdowns? So
we have a highly irradiated structure that is quite a bit larger than the than the fission comparative thing. And if the fusion thing does let go, because an accident that we didn't see coming spreads a few 10,000 tons of highly irradiated stuff all over 60 kilometers radius, that's bigger than Chernobyl.
Yeah, and I wanted to say too, just to add in that that we really, the chat room's kind of talking on that, which is that the accidents that have happened with fission are not something that have like wrapped up and now they're kind of in the past or anything like that. I would argue that even Chernobyl, the effects of that are still occurring in the area. There's still a massive exclusion zone, and it's going to be thousands of years before you could even really safely be around that area for a very long period of time. So these are things we have to be. These are types of technology that we have to be very, very careful with, and we have to make sure that the design and the operations that we do and the safety of it is paramount with all of that. We can't skimp on the problems that end up causing the entirety of a type of energy generation to be labeled with.
So let's just say for a moment that we wake up tomorrow and for whatever reason, the social angst against fission goes away. We're suddenly socially it's an acceptable, because it used to be that way, right? I mean, we built nuclear power plants using this technology. Like
there's
we got there.
Operation Plowshare, where they were thinking about like, oh, we're going to make a harbor using hydrogen bombs. Like, oh, we're going to get natural gas out of the ground by blowing up nuclear bombs in Colorado, so that way we could pull the gas out. And oh, the gas is now really irradiated. Guess we can't do that.
What does this look like for space travel? Is this just basically a giant steam engine, effectively, that like we're shooting supersonic steam out the back end of the nozzle? Like,
no.
What does that look like?
No, it's a reactor producing electricity producing ions and spitting ions at several factors above chemical rocket velocities.
But the ions are really light, right? Because kinetic energy, and for those in the room, please forgive me if I got this wrong, but kinetic energy is half of your mass by velocity squared, right? So the speed at which you're moving is very, very important. Your mass is not as important, but mass is still important, right? So, like, would you have enough? Like these engines aren't getting us out of our gravity well, right? Question mark?
No.
Right?
Like, these are for interorbital things, and I'm depending on which kind of system I'm looking for. My optimum velocities are on the order of 14,000 meters per second up to 30,000. So this is the low velocity for ions a little bit. Ions are usually 25 to 40,000.
Okay, I'm not going to run the
Doesn't
math
matter
right now on the air.
You're saying that would compare. You're saying that would be due to the velocity that would compare better than a chemical rocket or a chemical.
Oh, it's far
engine in
better than
space,
a
right?
chemical rocket. But what I'm actually comparing against is like a photovoltaic powered.
Okay.
Which is what I'd use any time this side of Mars. I'm not bothering with nuclear for anything closer than Mars.
Because
easy.
I feel like people care about nuclear until it's safely in space away from them.
Sure,
right?
sure.
Like we've got
rovers
on Mars.
Ground. And I'm not going to start up the reactor on the ground. I don't mind sending the fuel parts up in a specially extra safe kind of thing that can withstand re-entry and everything else, and then having that installed on orbit, because I'm going to be fueling and probably even building the thing on orbit or assembling it on orbit. I'm probably not going to try to launch an interplanetary long-term spacecraft like this that is big enough to have a nuclear reactor on it. as opposed to something that can be scaled down to a few tons. I'm talking about 1,000-ton kind of ship.
Vax wants to know, Dolly, why not a nuclear thermal rocket?
Nuclear thermal is great for ejection maneuvers because it's not very competitive with chemical rockets as far as power to weight ratio, but it's orders of magnitude higher than what I'm describing for the ejection maneuver. And the Oberth effect can be a much bigger advantage than this about 2-to-1 that I get from my system. The Oberth effect might be 3 or 4-to-1 under the best of conditions. And so using a lower ISP, much higher thrust thing to scoop you up in several runs. You don't go out in one go. 3 or 4 or 5 burns to get to your ejection with long swings, and then your final one is, anyway, that's Kerbal stuff. But the idea is with
we're Kerbeling on the air live, Dolly.
we're Kerbeling on the air. I just mean Kerbal like it's orbital dynamics calcs.
Yeah.
No,
continue. I'm sorry. No, continue.
I'm not
your
sure.
thought.
I just mean that both are necessary. You want the nuclear thermal for that stuff, and that's certainly a reactor. And that's one that doesn't actually leave. It doesn't finish the ejection burn. It goes into a high and captures and is reused. And every month, you're sending out a new something in the long run. If you're bothering to put a reactor in space, you want to use it a bunch.
So paint me a picture. Let's just say we as a society approve all of this. We're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. What would that open up immediately? Like, I can build this right now.
Okay.
What type of travel would this immediately make available that we're not able to do right now? Or how does this make our life better other than just like you've got a really efficient, effectively a really efficient system, which obviously...
It cuts that Enceladus trip that we were talking about from 20 years to about 6. And is much, much less mass launched to orbit to achieve the same goal. If you want specifics, I have too many spreadsheets, so it's a long.
All right,
conversation.
too many spreadsheets. Hang on,
That's fine.
Too many spreadsheets. Let me add that into the. I'm going to add that into my notes. Too many.
Good.
Spreadsheets.
I have too many spreadsheets, so that's an offline conversation.
I was going to say, Dolly, since this is something that you're really interested in, have you ever heard of the Kilo Power project?
Oh, very much.
I
modeled some of my work in developing my humanities children stuff using the Kilo Power project as the starting place for, I know this can be done. Now, what would be the next few generations of that?
Airvale may have the new comment for the show, which is, would it be 6 calendar years or 6 Boeing years?
Oh, no, calendar years.
Ouch.
No.
Ouch.
Ouchie.
Ouch. Woo. God, we're harsh. We're so harsh.
Has Boeing exceeded the 2.71 Elon multiplier?
I think they have. Is that really the multiplier for Elon? Is that a
Close
real
enough.
number?
I've been using
man.
E as the Elon multiplier, 2.71 for a long time. By the way, that's 2.71781 repeating, and I'm lying.
Yeah. So it's so easy to, I'll just say it's easy to harp on Boeing not having the information that they have or knowing how they got there. Like, it's not fair. It's not fair, but it's fun.
Yeah.
Everyone harps on everyone else is what we do. We're human. Sorry.
We are not punching down.
The launchpad says they have Elon multiplied by the Elon multiplier.
Ooh. All right. I think we're stalling out. Thank you, everyone, for joining our show today. We are going to continue our show in our membership stream kind of in a bit. And I was taking notes during the show. And the people that you see on the screen will be able to get into our membership stream either live or on demand after the fact. There we go. So yeah, you couldn't hear me because I wasn't part. Everyone was a part of that except for me. I was the only object not in the slates. That's hilarious.
I was at least quiet.
Yeah.
Yep.
I didn't know
appreciate
what was
that.
happening, so I decided to stay silent.
We could hear Dutta. We could hear Dutta clicking through the slates. Okay, so I'll just tell you what I was saying.
Doing it
I was
live.
I was saying we're gonna in our member stream, which the people you saw on the screen, they're able to get in the member stream. We're gonna try to talk about diverging alternate transport on planets such as trains and air balloons because I find that to be interesting. Dolly talked about can-do technology, and then too many spreadsheets. Oh, hey, wait, you can hear me now, right? The only problem is, Dutta, you need to mute your mic, Dutta, because we can hear like back. There you go.
There we go.
Right now, hang on, we fixed it. Did we fix it for this show? We finally fixed it so that you can hear me.
Did we?
Nice.
Right?
Wow.
Everyone, hang on, in the chat room, give me a thumbs up if you can actually still. Oh, right? It took us what 3-4 shows. We finally figured out the basics.
We're professionals.
Oh my god!
We did it.
And as an added bonus for all of our members, you got your name in the show twice this week. Congratulations! So that's
You
what
wouldn't
we're going to
believe
talk
that
about.
one of us has an Emmy in here.
Oh no! One of us has 2 Emmys. Actually, more than 2 Emmys. Let's be clear. One of us has multiple Emmys. Yep.
One you can put on the table. The second one you can put on the cabinet in the bathroom.
Well, for a long time, they were honestly. Well, we'll talk about the Emmys in the member stream. I'll tell you where my Emmys went. That if you want to know where my Emmys are, you're gonna have to join us in the member stream. And unfortunately, with the new platform, there is no way for us to automatically have the member stream be ready in advance. So what we need to do is we're gonna shut this show down. We're gonna build the member stream really quickly for those members. For those of you who are members and who want to join us, and any subscription level, even the one at $1 per month, is eligible for the membership show, just go to youtube.com/TMRO, and then you'll see a new member-only stream pop up. Click on that. You can watch it live or on demand. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us this week. I will be off once again next week. Unfortunately, I will be down at Cape Canaveral. I do not think I can join live. Hopefully, I'll be back the following week. So Jared will be your host next week. Did a phenomenal job last week. This is my long Minnesota goodbye. I just want to basically keep Ryan waving for as long as humanly possible.